Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Meaningful Marketer podcast. I'm Mia, and this is Grace, and we talk about all the small business things, but we talk about them in a connection and community-led mindset. So we talk here about how we can connect deeper with ourselves and with our community, our people as a business, so that way we can have the most thriving business possible. Yes, sales, all of those things are important, and those are things we talk about too. But we believe those can be a really great byproduct, a really great cherry on top, a really great reward for focusing first on people, whether that be focusing on yourself and how you can show up as the best person you can be, or really focusing on your community and people first. And then through that, through those connections, through living in, your purpose, serving people with your gifts, all of those things, you can have a more thriving business, but not just a thriving business in the way of money, but one that actually feels fulfilling. And you don't end up getting to the end of it and going, oh, I make all this money, but I don't really know that I like doing this. It's missing something. So that is what we talk about here. And today we are talking about something that is very near and dear to our hearts because we are in the heart of the journey of this ourselves. And we promise you here to share not just what we've learned, but the things we are currently struggling with and currently learning. So
Yeah.
that way we can all go through it together because we're learning too, even though we have been in marketing and design and business for around 7 years now since we started our business too, and everything, it's still a journey for us. We're still learning every single day. And so we want to take you along with us on that journey, along this journey on starting a podcast and building a brand on Instagram and all of those different things and doing it with a people first mindset. So the topic we're going to be talking about today is to-do lists, because if there is one thing that is going to keep you from being excited, joyful, happy in your business and achieving the things that you really want to do in your business, it's probably something to do with you have too many things going on, or you have so many things that you're stressed, you don't feel like you can accomplish all of them, or you feel really discouraged, you feel this perfectionism tugging at you just because of the amount of things that you have to do. And we know because we've been there. And if you don't struggle with this, then you're a badass and you're doing
Yeah.
great. Then comment your secrets below because we want to know them. Because this is definitely, I feel like, a common thing that we come across a lot, not just with ourselves, but with our clients and what we have seen over the years of working with small businesses. So let's get right to it and talk about what we're doing, what's working, what's not working. And members, make sure to stay tuned because we have bonus content for you at the end as well that is going to talk you through how to kind of find your own routine. Because we believe here that we can share our experiences, we can share our expertise based on what we've seen with everyone else. But ultimately, you are unique. You are unlike anything else that has been done before in your business, and so you are going to have a unique thing that works for you with to-do lists and with every other thing that, you come across. So we like to say that we're a launching pad. We are a guide to get you started, to get you motivated, to get you inspired, to give you a starting place based on what we've seen work throughout clients for us. But from there, feel free to experiment and have fun and find what works for you because you are the magic. You are the one who is going to ultimately find that secret sauce for yourself. The first thing, as always, that we want to talk about is mindset. So I noticed not a long time ago, actually, it wasn't that long ago at all, but I noticed a while back that people would always say, don't strive for perfectionism. And I think we all, know in this day and age, you shouldn't strive for perfectionism. We're fed that all the time. And you kind of build a wall up to this. I feel like a little bit of like, oh, well, I'm not trying to be perfect. I don't want to be perfect, and we don't really explore it anymore. And what I noticed about myself one day is because a huge value of mine is integrity and doing what I say I'm going to do. I was taking integrity and I was I don't know if you could say using that as an excuse for perfectionism, but I think I was confusing integrity and perfectionism a little bit there.
Mhm.
And so I realized one day it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was like, I keep telling myself I'm not trying to make everything perfect that I just want to do a good job, that I just want to do the best job. But in my head, what I'm realizing is in my head, the best job is there's no mistakes. There's, all of these different things that go along with that end up really leaning a lot more towards perfectionism. So before you go and you dive into your list, you dive into the things that you're trying to check off, I think it's important to know what is it going to look like when you check off that list? What is it going to feel like when it's done?
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, it's never going to be done. So we have to set the standard of what does done look like so we have an endpoint. Because otherwise, this is what Grace and I struggle with a lot. You could spend forever in a day getting ahead or, continuing to work on something over and over again because you want to do the best job you can. And so if you don't go ahead and establish what is done in simplest terms, and if you don't have that established, you are, I think, going to fall into this perfectionism mindset.
Yeah.
And you are going to continue just checking the list off. And what happens is you feel like you're never done. And it's because you're not. Because the list, especially as a business owner, and, if you're someone else watching this and you're not a business owner, I think as a non-business owner sometimes too, the list is just never done. It's never ending. And so you have to decide, what does done look like for you?
That's a great
And
point.
so that is the first thing I want you to do is I want you to establish your mindset around the list that you have and really think about, is this inching into perfection? Because integrity and perfection are very different. But I think we get them confused a lot. And we think in order to uphold our integrity, something has to be perfect. In order to give someone a product that is worthy of their money, it has to be perfect. If it's not perfect, we have failed upholding the value of integrity. And I don't know that everyone feels that way, but I definitely know there are people out there. I know I feel that way a lot. And I remember one time we were on, I think, a mental health workshop with one of our members, and they were talking about how their product, they just launched it or they were taking pre-orders for it. It was already in production. And if you're in production, you know that once something's in production, you can't nitpick it all day and continue changing things. Like
Right.
it's in
Right.
production, you are left with what you have. And that's that. If you have an idea along the way, even if it's great, but say you have an idea along the way, you can't implement that now. That's a 6 month to a year idea that you're implementing because you have hundreds maybe of other people working on this thing. And they were talking about, they were like, I'm just so nervous because there's so many things I could do better on it. And there's so many ideas I have around it that I didn't have at first, but now I can't do that. And so now I'm nervous because the pre-orders are happening. And now I feel like they're not getting as good of a product as they could get. And I remember when they were talking about that, I was like, oh my goodness, you were being way too hard on yourself. But then when it came time, fast forward a ways down the road and we're working on some things, I was doing the same thing to something that we're working on. And every little thing, I was like, no, we can't do it now because we've got to have this way. We've got to have this way. And it was actually so freeing because I just joined a workout membership that someone has. And it's just, it's nothing like a chain or anything. It's just a workout membership that a single person has done online. And it's like a themed one and it's really cool. And I just watched one of their videos and it was so encouraging to me because it was great. And I felt so connected with them through the whole video. Like, I really want to stay in this program now. I really want to do it. It was not perfect. Like the ending was not perfect on it. I think it looked like maybe it was an old video that maybe they had cut off. And so there wasn't really like an ending to it. Maybe it was a video they had edited that, they had used previously and then they had to edit bits out of it. It was not perfect at all, but I still felt connected to the human who was talking. And honestly, I would even say that maybe it even made me feel more connected because it didn't feel so stuffy and perfect. And so one thing to remember is that imperfection allows room for connection. And I think sometimes we stifle connection with perfection. And if we just let the imperfections be,
Yeah.
we would connect more.
That's really good. I was just thinking about how some of my favorite songs to listen to are like demos or acoustic covers or whatever. It's
Yeah.
like ones that aren't quite as produced, and you hear like some laughter in the background that's not on the track or something. You know what I mean? But those little imperfections oftentimes do make it more authentic. And I think, especially for creatives, and I know a lot of you guys are creatives like us, like you're your own worst critic. And like that can drive you to make great work, and that's great. But you will sit there and continue to rework and rework and rework things when you probably could call it done. And if you're honest and you zoom out, the finished product is plenty worthy. But, because I feel like so many of us creatives, especially, have that kind of like perfectionism drive, like you'll just drive yourself crazy editing things that like no one else will even notice. I promise. Like when Mia and I are editing videos for a client or something, and we're like, "Ugh, we need this like 0.1 second to be edited out or whatever." Like a lot of times that's not nearly as important as it feels to us. And so at the end of the day, yeah, you may feel really satisfied with having given it 110%. But if you would have given it just whatever, 90 or 100%, would that have really changed the outcome that much? Like you do have to kind of keep yourself in check with that. That's a great point.
Yes, agreed. And you talking about music, I remember as a little girl when I would find a song I'd like, I'd look on once I figured out what YouTube was, because YouTube wasn't actually a big thing whenever I was a kid.
Right.
And I don't really think when you were a kid either, we were
No,
like
not
on the
yet.
cusp of that. But I remember looking like, I want to hear the acoustic version. I want to hear the raw version. I want to hear the version where their voice like cracks a little bit
Yes.
or they try to do the note a little differently and
Yes.
and you can feel and like hear the passion and the rawness in their voice. Like that connects so much more. And that's probably the version that the artist was probably like, oh my gosh, my voice cracked in that. And that might be my favorite part of the
Yep.
song where I'm like, wow, you can hear the emotion in their voice, like when it cracks here. And we just don't realize that. And we stifle opportunities for connection by trying to be perfect all the time. When really a lot of the time imperfection is the gateway to connection. It's just putting, like you said, your 100% in. So think of that with your to-do list, with the things that you're pouring over on your to-do list because there's a lot of things that I used to pour a lot more time over that I don't near as much anymore. And guess what? It hasn't made a difference that I didn't. I think it lets your pride go a little bit too. It's a little humbling when you're like, oh, wow, I'm not, me pouring all this time and energy doesn't really make as big of a difference as I thought it did. It's just the magic's really in doing it and
Yeah.
getting it done and action. The magic's in action. And so I want to challenge you to really think of your mindset around that and think of allowing the imperfections to flow in a way that can spark connection rather than always looking at them like they're messing everything up because
Yeah. That's good.
they're not, I promise you. When it actually comes time to the to do list, I'm going to tell you something that has helped me tremendously. And that is, it's very simple to be honest, but I have a huge, like, I call it a Mac Daddy list, my Mac Daddy list that I put everything on. Anything I can think of goes on the Mac Daddy list. And so once it is on the Mac Daddy list, I have a system, like a program I use where I can star certain tasks. So the tasks that I am prioritizing for the day, I go by day. That works better for me. Some people like to do by week. By month might be a bit too broad, but I know people who like to do it by week, and I prefer by day. That just feels more like at the end of each day, I feel like I can do and I feel like if I did it by week for me personally, then I would end the day thinking like, oh my gosh, like thinking of the week as a whole rather than the day as like a closed chapter for the day. But that's however it works for you. But so I have my Mac Daddy list and then I go through and I star all the things for that day. Now, whenever it comes to what am I starring? Because when I first heard about this method, I was like, well, that's great. But for me, I'm just going to go through and star everything or pretty much everything because that's how I am. And I want my to do list all the way done. But what I do is, and this is what I was instructed to do by learning this method, because it's a method that like Google, like all of these big companies use this for project management. So if you're someone who's worked in project management, you might even be familiar with this, but only put on your to-do list what you know you can get done, or you're like 90% sure you can get done. So if you're making your to-do list for the week, only put the things on there that you're 90% sure you can get done. If you're doing it for the day, only for the day that you're 90% sure you can get done. Because you are going to start prioritizing what you can finish. You're going to focus on finishing things. And so that means if you're finishing less things, that's okay. And I think that's hard for us to accept sometimes, to finish less things. But the first thing is to realize the situation. Realize I can't get everything done. Realize I need to prioritize things, because the realistic situation is we can wish and say all day all of these things that we're going to do. We can wish it all as much as we want. That's not going to make it happen.
Yeah.
So you have to first be intentional and realize what is actually realistic. And I think honestly, for a to-do list, for a project, whatever you're looking at when it comes to getting something done, I think that's one of the biggest parts of the battle. It's being intentional and realizing, so then you can actually make a plan based on more than just wishes and
Yeah.
what you would like to do. And that's something that I have not been very good at. I mean, honestly, until probably maybe the past 2 weeks. I feel like last week and a half. I feel like last week it was like my first week ever, like doing very good, very, very good at like staying on track. This week so far, really good as well, but it's still a very new thing for me. And so I think one of the biggest hurdles is first accepting like that realization of like, okay, this is my reality. So now what can I do? What can I actually do? And how can I make best the time that I have? How can I do the best things with it? And from there, then it's time to take the action and prioritize. And so what I like to do is go, not what I would like to get done today. What if I don't get done today is going to be like detrimental? Now, something that I swapped my thinking on here, because one thing that I did, and this is what helped me a lot last week, is that so sometimes the detrimental things, there are things that I worked on that were not necessarily detrimental for the next day, for the end of the day, right? But because I had a plan, I had thought ahead of time and decided what days I wanted to accomplish what on. So every task, or my big tasks anyways, had certain days assigned to them. I knew that if I didn't accomplish that thing on that day, it was going to have to move to another day. So it was pretty detrimental that it got done, because if it moved to another day, then my task for that day was going to have to move to another day. And so first things first, I do the things that are actually detrimental. So like, for instance, if there are posts that need scheduled for a client, we've planned out our client's week of social media, say. And so a very detrimental thing is once the client has looked over the social media, it's making any adjustments that the client has requested, and then it is scheduling the content, because there is nothing worse than it's time to post something. And this is with everything in life, but I think if you manage social media or you know anything about managing social media, this is the worst, is nothing's ready. And so then you have to scramble, and it ends up taking you a lot longer, and it adds to your stress level so much more because nothing's ready. So first, what I look at is what are the actual detrimental things that are like, if this is not done by a certain amount of time today, like pretty immediately today in the morning, it's going to cause me extra stress, and it's probably going to end up taking me more time to do
Yeah.
it because I have to scramble doing it.
Yeah.
So once those are done, then it's the things that are like, okay, what are the things that are most detrimental that I have scheduled for myself to finish today or get as far as I can today? And if they move into, maybe it's not the next day. Maybe that's not a big deal. Maybe you have kind of 2 days to finish a project, say. But if they move into the next day, that starts to, is that going to be detrimental? Because then is it going to throw off another task that needs to be done? And so then am I just going to be playing a game of things just keep getting moved until now I'm working through my weekend, which I think that a lot of business owners do. And, and some weeks that's going to be unavoidable. Some weeks it's going to happen, but this is going to help maybe lessen that. It takes practice. I'm still practicing it. I'm probably going to next week completely fall flat on my face with it. Like, it's not something you get better at overnight. So first you're going to realize, then you're going to prioritize. And lastly, you're going to accept. And much like realize to accept is where at the end of the day, what I've been doing is as it nears the end of the day, lasts like 2 hours of the day, I look at my to-do list and I look at what else I have to do. I make sure that I've accomplished the things that are like, okay, this is not going to bleed into my evening or bleed into, something important and cause me stress. If those are done and it's just I'm trying to accomplish the things that I have assigned for that day, then I'm going to look take 5 minutes and look and go, is this actually doable for me for the rest of the day? Like, will I actually accomplish this? And I have to get, again, real with myself on this. If the answer is no, then I kind of go to plan B. Then I'm like, okay, well, how much of this can I get done? And then what does that look like for tomorrow? How does that, look for my tomorrow? But if you get good at this, you can kind of like plan yourself little bumpers too. I know if this project doesn't get completely finished today, I have about an hour, 2 hours tomorrow that I can work on it and get it wrapped up, or work on whatever I didn't finish and, get it wrapped up. And so once I do that, I set myself again, reevaluate my expectation. I feel like over time this will get easier because you'll get better at knowing what you can actually finish. But at first, I feel for me it's very helpful to do that check-in a couple hours before my day ends to just reset that expectation of, okay, what am I actually going to get done? And what are the things that I would like to be able to do tonight? Would I like to be able to take a walk, to, go to dinner? Like, what do I want to have time to do tonight? So set my realistic expectations, reset them, and then accept where I'm at. So then I'm not spending time stressing about it. I'm not spending energy, precious energy that I could be using to get as much done as possible, stressing about it and being sad about it. Instead, I can accept it and then I can move on and use my energy to finish out the rest of the day. And then, I usually will give myself a little bit of a grace period, 30 minutes to an hour, that maybe I need a little extra time in the day, especially if it's on my heavier days. Because that's another thing I've been doing, is just knowing Mondays and Tuesdays are going to be very heavy days. I've set the expectation there. I've set the acceptance and the realization and everything there with myself, with my family. So that way Tom knows Mondays and Tuesdays, we might be going on our walks a little later, or, nights might look a little different. But then Wednesdays through Sundays, the times I have set aside for family, I can be more intentional about, because those 2 days are heavier days. And so those are the things that really help me. But the last thing is, and this is what I think makes a huge difference, because this is what I started doing last week in addition to this. And I want to say, it is okay to build on things a little at a time, because when I first started trying to get better at time management and everything, it was just timing myself to know how much time things actually take. Like, that's a big first step. Then it was, I figured out this method with the to-do list that I was like, okay, this actually works so much better for my brain. And then it was, now I can prioritize things. And so it was honestly over the past, like, probably 3 or 4 months, it's been like a really maybe some of the year, because I feel like the beginning of the year is when I really started trying to time and pay attention to how much time things really took me. But it takes time. So it's okay to take baby steps and just build on it. Like, you can't just take everything that we're saying today and then just be like, I'm going to go do this tomorrow. Like, pick one little thing, one little baby step. But from there, the big step that I took was like, okay, now that I'm better at managing, a little better, just a tiny bit better at managing my time and to-do list, now I'm going to tackle the hardest things first. They call it eating the frog. I think I
I like it.
hate that expression. I don't know. It's just weird. So I was like, I need to think of a different one. Maybe wrestle the bear. I don't know. Whatever, whatever that
I
is.
think the most country girl Lafayette we could make this is like grab the bull by the horns.
The bull by the horns, lasso the pig while he's
Yeah,
while
lasso the
he's
pig.
down. Whatever it looks like to you, whatever you can envision, you know, go do it.
Do
Do
that.
the overall thing is, do the hard thing first. Because what we have a tendency to do as human beings, and I would dare say every single human being I've ever come in contact with, friends, family, work, colleagues, all of that, we have a tendency to want to save the harder things for last. Because I think there's a couple reasons, but one reason I think is because it's, when we're doing the easy things, we can see a lot of things checked off at once. We're just done, 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 done. And realistically, though, we are getting things done, but realistically, a lot of those easier things are probably not the most important things. They're probably the things that could wait an extra day or a day or two, and those are the things that, if they are saved until Friday or Thursday or whatever your work week looks like, if they're kind of saved to the last minute, they're probably not going to cause you that much stress. But those are the things that we end up doing first, and we feel really good and really accomplished. And then we just keep putting off doing the hard things, because as soon as there's that discomfort there, your brain goes, whoa, whoa, no, 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 like, don't want that. this is stressful, this is danger. Because as
Yep.
soon as your
Flight
brain feels
response.
that stress, it's going danger, danger. No, we've got to get away from this. And the best way to tackle that is action. And I hate that just as much as the next person, but I'm learning that really is the best way to tackle it is just if I can take just a tiny bit of action, you can get that going. A lot of the time we're waiting for a feeling, we're waiting for motivation, but what creates that is us taking 5 minutes, just a little bit of time to do the action to get it started. And a lot of the time you'll find once you get it started, you're rocking and rolling and you don't even want to like stop. The stress just starts to like melt away, but doing those most stressful, larger, harder, whatever it is, things first. So for me personally, what that looked like is my biggest projects in the week are our client social media. If you plan social media, you know it's a lot of work. Try planning it. Between us, we're planning multiple editing, planning multiple social media accounts, both of us. And so it's a lot of work. It's like a full project every week, a very large project. And so for me, what would happen a lot of the time is up until like last week, like I would save most of my larger projects like that to Wednesday, Thursday, Friday time. So what would happen is, as we all know, as the week goes on, things come up, like people start to need more things from you because, after Monday, Tuesdays, their lists start growing. They start asking more things of you. Things come up in your personal life, like whatever happens. But we just know as the longer the week goes on, the more things start getting put on
True.
your plate and your to-do list. It just keeps growing. And so what I found last week is I was like, wow, if I just can, it took me a little bit of time to get this accomplished last week, but I was like, if I can just do all of those at the beginning of the week, that's a big mindset shift because nobody's really needing or looking for these to be sent to them until Thursday, Friday. So the procrastinator side of me is like, oh, well, I don't have to have, like, why am I going to do that now?
Right.
I don't have to have them done until Thursday or Friday, like I can do this at midnight on Thursday. But when I was able to really fight with that and shift my mindset, and I got a little taste of what it felt like to get that done in the beginning, I was like, I don't have to worry about that the rest of the week or the rest of the day, whatever, however you're setting up doing, your to-do list and putting the hard things first. Like, I don't have to worry about that the rest of the week. You're telling me I don't have to worry about that for 7 whole days now? Not only do I not have to worry about that though, when you do the hard thing first, your mind is freed up because a lot of the time you are spending precious time and energy stressing and thinking about that thing leading up to it. So if I'm saving this until Friday or Wednesday, Thursday, whatever, there's a little bit of my time and energy that's being spent Monday, Tuesday, dreading the larger tasks that I have to do because I know they're coming. I know that they're going to be my least favorite tasks of the week, not even because I hate doing it, just because they're larger, they're long, they take a lot of time to do, all of the things. And so that is taking up brain space, time, and energy. But then when you're tackling the larger things first, whatever, or the harder things first, whatever that looks like, you are actually freeing up space in your mind and time and energy to go through the rest of the week. And so as more things are added, what I found last week is as things come up and as more things were added, I actually wasn't stressed about them. So I was like, oh, I have the space to fit these in because I did my harder things first. So whether that's at the beginning of the day or yeah, you're doing it at the beginning of the day, the beginning of your week, whatever that looks like. If you can pick the thing or the things that you are dreading and do those first, again, for me personally, I look at what's detrimental first and foremost, like what has to be done because I don't want that extra stress put on me last minute if I forget. Like, for instance, if a post needs to go up at 3 and I don't have the stuff scheduled for it, I'm going to forget. I'm going to get in a project. I'm going to forget. 3 is going to come. Tom's going to get off early. He's going to be trying to talk to me, or Jedi's going to need to go to the bathroom or something. And then I'm going to be like, crap, all of this has landed at once now. I'm 100 times more stressed. More of my time and energy is wasted on this than would have originally been wasted. And it could have been prevented. So I, again, look at what's detrimental, but then look at what's the hardest thing for your week, for your day. Go ahead and tackle that because it's going to save you so much. And so in my prioritizing, that's usually how I prioritize. And then if I have extra time, and sometimes I do, or I have, like, great, I can just tackle some of
Yeah.
those little admin things that I have to
Well,
do, or those can be saved for the end of the week if they're just little things that take 5 minutes.
yeah. I think, just like with so many roadblocks in business, oftentimes we stand in our own way, and that's an inconvenient truth, right? But like, you're the only
Mhm.
one with the power to reverse your workflow to be able to, again, like, be less stressed out at the end of the week? And yes, is there like some effort that has to be put in order to do that? I mean, yeah, like, it's going to be uncomfortable maybe the first couple of weeks that you're trying to do that, because it's like, you're retraining your brain out of the routine that you're used to or whatever. But I think if you look at it like a gift to yourself, like, I'm going to tackle the tough things first this week. I'm going to front load my week instead of backload my week, so that I can have, you know, whatever, a nicer time on Thursday and Friday. Or maybe I'll finish everything early enough that I can cut out a little early on a Friday. Like, if you're your own boss like us, like, that's a privilege that we could be taking advantage of if we put in the work to kind of like make the system work, right? So I hope that's encouraging. I hope that you can look at it that way, and you can be like, okay, how can I set myself up for success? Like, even if it's not about your clients or your audience, and it's just about you, think about what small shifts you can make to do that. You don't have to strive for perfection on week 1. Like Mia said, like, you can build to these things. But, well, yeah, what are 3 tasks that you can move to the front of your week, like next week, to see if you can really, start a new system for yourself?
Yeah. And then have, like you said, have grace for yourself when it doesn't work out because you are taking steps in the right direction. And again, it's not going to look like perfection. And when you let that perfection creep in, it's taking away opportunities for you to connect with yourself, for you to make progress, all of those things. So a little at a time, have grace with yourself too. If maybe you do it really well for 3 weeks and then there's a week that it doesn't work out well, that's okay. Get back on the horse as, well as you can, as quickly as you can. And so, yeah, that is a personal system that has worked. For me, everyone's system might be different, I want to say, because I feel like for so long, I've heard so many systems that people do. And then when I would try them, I'd be like, well, is something wrong with me because that system doesn't work for me, but it works for this person? And there's nothing wrong with you. You just have to find what works for you personally. And then you actually have to want to do it. Like Grace said, oftentimes we're in our own way. You have the same amount of hours in the day as anyone else. We have the same amount of hours in the day as anyone else. We know people who are great at managing their time and horrible at managing their time, who have, multiple jobs, kids, no kids, just they're traveling a lot. They're not traveling a lot. They own a business. We know people of all different kinds, of all different walks of life who manage their time really well. And you look at them and you're like, wow, they are just good. And I know people who, they're right there next to me struggling and we're like, how are we going to do this? So it really is, you're not going to ever get more time. You're not going to ever feel like you get more time. I've spent a lot of my life wishing or waiting for more time. It does not come. I felt like I had the same amount of time when I was working a 9 to 5 as I do now. I just it's spent different now than it did when I worked a 9 to 5. My day is just arranged different now than when I worked a 9 to 5. And so if you're waiting on the day for you to have more time, that's not really coming. Because if you don't learn how to manage your time well now while you have a little, then you're going to squander when you have a lot. It's like money. And I've learned that very recently is I'm like, if I don't know how to manage a little bit of money, then when it comes to managing a lot of money, I'm just going to squander it, just like squandering a little bit. And it's the same with time. If you don't know how to manage a little bit of time, honestly, it's probably easier to manage a little bit of time. And then when you have a lot of time, it's going to feel really overwhelming. So make the most of what you have now because maybe you're going through the same thing over and over and over again because there's a lesson in it that you haven't learned yet. And once you learn it, you're going to be able to walk into having more time, but it's going to feel like more time, not because you have more time, but because you have become a good steward of the time that you
Agreed.
have and you know how to manage it really well. And I think that's a big lesson that I'm learning because I've spent all of my 20s and part of my 30s now with this struggle with time management. And I feel like I'm just now and I'm far from perfect on it. Like I'm scratching the surface of my journey on this. And so, you know, don't wait around and waste all this time waiting around for you to get more time because you can be empowered and you can take control of the time that you have now. And I think that's the great thing too, is when you can find something that works for you and you do it, you start to feel so much more confident in yourself and like empowered. And you do feel like you have the tiniest little bit of control over the things of your life that you actually can control instead of just focusing on all the things you can't all the time.
Good
We
point.
can't control everything and we can't try to, but there are things in our life that we can. And if we shift our focus to those things, like prioritizing our to dos, those kinds of things, then we are probably going to feel a lot better. So, lastly, is prioritize time for things that you enjoy, fun things. So once you get to the end of the day, that chapter closes, the end of the week, actually prioritize fun stuff because you are going to feel so much less resentful when it comes time to open that to do list again the next day. You're going to feel so much more creatively energized. You're going to feel just so much more empowered to take on the day. And you're going to show up as such a better business owner, friend, like spouse, whatever it is, because you took the time to prioritize something that means a lot to you. I know for me personally, I'm still getting into a lot of hobbies, back into hobbies that I like because to be vulnerable for a long time, if it didn't have to do with self development or business, I was like, oh, well, it's a waste of my time. Like, I've got goals, I've got things I want to do. I don't have time to read this book if it has nothing to do about how to better myself. I don't have time to play the piano because that's not getting me any closer to my business growing, things like that. And that just sucks all the joy out of your life. It just completely sucks it out. So I know for something for me lately, I have gotten back into reading and that's been something that has been great for me. Like I have felt so much more energized and creative and happy and not reading just self-help books, but like reading things that are just fun that I enjoy reading. Me and Tom started listening to like an audiobook together and doing that together. And it's something that feels so trivial, maybe even childish to me, like because I'm always so focused on business all the time, but it's been so nice to prioritize that. And
Yeah.
so, make sure to prioritize those things. I remember, I think it was maybe a month or two ago that you said you had like a craft time or something, right, Grace? And you were kind of saying that same thing on like when you took the time for that, you were like, it doesn't feel like much, but when I took the time for it, it felt so good.
Yeah, no, I think the important thing is having time off the screen. And I hate that, it sounds so cliche, but working with your hands or reading a book, like you said, anything where you're not like scrolling, especially when social media is your job. Like I have to catch myself and be like, you know what? I'm going to put my phone on do not disturb and do this thing. And it is creatively energizing and it's just a really good reset. So making time for that on the weekends or making time for that, after work during the week when you've decided, okay, I'm shutting my laptop and I'm not opening my to do list again until tomorrow, even though I could be spending this free time doing, work stuff. I think there's a lot of value in that for mental health, for physical health. Go on a walk. You know what I mean? Like just anything where you're not inundated with your screen, I think is good.
Yeah. 100%. I think what you said is the key. It's getting off your phone because whatever industry you're in these days, I think you are on your phone and your computer a lot. Maybe not all industries. Honestly, I think the ones that aren't are quite fortunate because I think it takes a completely different toll on you to spend all day on a computer or a
Yeah.
phone. And in the day and age we live in, no matter the industry we're in, a lot of us are in that reality of spending a lot of time on electronics. And there just is, it's so funny because, like, even reading a book, but, for me, when I read, I'm trying to do it on physical book or like a Kindle kind of book, like an e reader. So I'm not on my phone. If we're listening to audiobook, that is on the phone, but it's like my phone's put away and we're walking or, I'm not like scrolling the phone while I'm doing it. And it doesn't seem like a big deal. It's like, well, I'm still entertaining myself. I'm still doing something, but I can't explain it. It just is different. And your mind reacts to it in such a different way, whether it's crafts and doing something with your hands, taking a walk, reading a book, your mind it turns on something in your mind that does not get turned on in the same way whenever you are scrolling on your phone. And I can't explain it. And the only way I can say to explain it is like, go do it. If you have gotten so disconnected from that part of yourself, go do it because you're going to think like it's a waste of time. It's not getting you any closer to your goals. But then you are going to be so shocked when you do it and you're like, oh my gosh, like I got this great business idea now, or I feel so much more confident to like go make this video now because I just feel empowered because I did something for myself. Like whatever that is, but it just is crazy. I've felt so much less stressed about work and I've had so much more creativity and ideas flowing because I have taken more time to do the things that at one time I just kind of were like, oh, well, those are just trivial, maybe childish things, to go do or to prioritize as an adult. And I'm still learning how to, utilize my creativity in the pockets of time that I have that I'm being intentional about being 100% working, and things like that. But I know that'll come with time. And I'm feeling though so much better and like I could show up better. And that's a very beginning journey in that, but it's exciting. And I hope that, all of you listening to this can get started on a journey with that and just take that dread out because a lot of the time what happens is we start a business and we start it for freedom. We start it for time freedom. We start it, freedom of a workspace that we feel good in and, get out of a toxic work environment or take control of your time. And you end up building a cage that you hold yourself in and you end up being more caged up and everything than you were when you worked a 9 to 5 or, you end up being a more toxic boss to yourself than your other toxic boss was. And I think we have to learn that nobody is going to fix that for us. Like we have full control of it at the end of the day, whether we feel like we do or not. It's all up here. And it's just
Yeah.
all about our mindset and how we
Yeah.
rearrange things. And it's going to take time, but the time's passing anyways. So you might as well take those baby steps in that time to get better a little bit of one day at a time, one little bit at a time. It's once you get started too, it's not going to feel like that much time I feel like as well because you start to feel better and you start to feel more excited. And so the time also doesn't feel so laborious. Like it doesn't feel like, oh my gosh, it might be another year before I have this time management skill down really well. It feels like, oh my gosh, I'm excited. I had a little bit more time this week. Or
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this craft I did the other day or this book that I read. And so it starts to not feel like so much. It only feels really horrible and like, you're not getting anywhere and like it's going to take a long time for you to get to where you want to be when you haven't started and you're just thinking about where you want to be. Like that's when it feels horrible. It's when you take action, you start to enjoy the process a bit more.
For
And I
sure.
think some, people say along the way, like, enjoy the process and stuff. And I think a lot of the time, I've always kind of had a hard time with that because I'm very like destination driven.
Yep.
And I think a lot of the time, how you enjoy the process is you romanticize things along the way. You find little ways
Yes.
to along the way that make things better. And I think what people don't mention is it's romantic, like you romanticize and all these little things start to fall together. So the process doesn't feel so
I
horrible. Like a
fully
lot of the
agree.
time, again, the process feels horrible because you're just sitting thinking about it. It's not the actual process itself. It gets more enjoyable because as you're in the process, you get better and better and better, and you get more joyful and happier whatever you're trying to get to. So that is hopefully something that can help you manage your to-do list better, get your things done at the end of the day, because you can, at the end of the day, at the end of the week, however you're laying your stuff out, you can close that chapter and have peace and enjoy the rest of your evening or the rest of your day, weekend, whatever it looks like for you. But you just have to set those parameters and you just have to give yourself a system that works for you. Gift yourself that, like, and nurture yourself there because otherwise you're not going to accomplish all your things in the day. You're not in the week, the day, whatever, because it's not going to end. I heard someone once say, look at things in your life like a cycle rather than a endpoint, like having an endpoint. Like someone said when they do laundry constantly feels horrible because you think there's going to be a day when you're completely done with all your laundry. It doesn't work that way. You're always wearing something. So if you look at it like a cycle and what stage of the cycle am I in, that makes things a lot more enjoyable
Ooh,
rather
that's
than,
good too.
is it done? And that was really helpful for me when someone said that. I was like, "Oh, I never thought of it like that." Because I'm very much the person that's like, I will rest when every bit of my laundry except what's on my body
Yes.
is, clean, folded, put away. And then I'll rest for like a day and then it's going to be messed up again. And I can't rest again until it's done. And I think it's the same with a lot of our things. So Hope this is helpful. Members, stick around because we do have a little bit of bonus content for you. Everyone else, stay tuned because we will post another episode next week. We post these every single Friday. We love getting to chat with you. So thank you so much. Make sure to subscribe because that's going to help us continue to share our journey with you and share what we learned along the way because we're all in this together. So let's do this together and learn how to market more meaningful, run a business more
Yes.
meaningful, connect with ourselves and others. We are so excited to have you here and we're cheering you on, and we will talk to you soon.